So, hello everyone, welcome to Bajirao IAS Academy Daily News Analysis. Today is 26th August 2024, and today we have some important news articles from different newspapers, and one by one we'll discuss all these important news articles. So, we'll try to understand every aspect related to these different news articles. And yesterday, I have given to you one important prelims practice question, and this practice question is with respect to carbon border adjustment mechanism. And remember that we have discussed this carbon border adjustment mechanism of European Union several times, and in fact it is a plan to tax carbon intensive products such as iron, steel, cement, aluminium, fertilizer, electricity generation, and it was proposed by the European Union. So the correct answer for this question is a European Union, or EU is the correct answer. So you can actually see the mechanism, how this carbon border adjustment mechanism would be applicable for the products which are being manufactured in India. Rather, so we can say that these products which are manufactured in India would be carbon intensive products. So they are carbon intensive products because of several reasons. Because as of now in India we do not have adequate technology, and that technology could achieve the energy efficiency. Right, so no energy efficiency in existing industrial production and industrial processes, and we are not also using adequate fossil fuels or renewable form of energy resources in our electricity generation. And the other factor is that so we have been using a lot of fossil fuels in producing these different products, whether cement, aluminium, steel, all these products we have been using a lot of fossil fuels, and ultimately these fossil fuels would release a lot of carbon into the environment, right? So therefore whatever products that we produce are known as the carbon intensive products, right? So this is the case with respect to India, and we will also try to understand the case with the European Union. And in European Union they have a net zero target. So they had the net zero target by the year 2050. So 2050 or way before that. So in order to achieve the 2050, so what European Union countries have did, so they have introduced certain emission regulations and emission standards also for their respective industry. So what happens when they introduced these emission restrictions or emission regulations for those industries in the European Union? So that actually made these European industries to immediately shift towards the technologies which could achieve energy efficiency, and also make a transition so that these industries could also use renewable energy resources, and at the same time they should also substantially reduce the dependence on the conventional fuels such as fossil fuels. However, this cost them a lot in terms of investment in technology, renewable energy. So this particular transition of their industries into the more renewable form would actually cost them a lot of resources, and because of this reason whatever products that these industries would produce, so they would be costly, right? So because of increasing input cost of these industries, the product cost would also significantly higher. But on the other hand, countries like India and other developing countries, they are still using the fossil fuels, and they are producing these steel, aluminium, cement at a very less or cheaper price, and now these goods would actually enter into the European Union, and European Union consumers would prefer to buy products from developing countries because they are cheap and less costly compared to the products in European Union. So in order to establish a level playing field between the industries in developing countries and industries in European Union, and in order to standardize the emission regulations, so they have introduced this carbon border adjustment mechanism. And as per this carbon border adjustment mechanism, any of India's products such as steel, aluminium, cement, which are produced through carbon intensive method, so once they are exported into the European Union markets, so when they enter into the European Union markets, they have to pay the carbon tariff. So once they pay the carbon tariff, only then the Indian goods would be allowed into the European Union markets. So in a way that will provide a level playing field between Indian companies and European Union companies. However, so on the other hand, this carbon border adjustment mechanism is clearly a detrimental factor in terms of Indian industries. So Indian industries used to export a lot of such items into the European Union. However, so increasing tariffs on these exports to European Union would cost the Indian industry, because there's a lot of difference between technology, a level of development, or the scale of development of these industries in European Union and Indian industries. So therefore, Indian delegation has been regularly engaging with the European Union to provide some sort of a concession for the Indian industry, so that they could withstand, and over a period of time they could also make a transition into the greener technology and greener fuels. And today also we have another very important prelims practice question, and this practice question we have already discussed about this. So which of the following are the new Ramsar sites added to the list of wetlands of international importance? So the wetlands are Tawa Reservoir and Nanjanarayan Bird Sanctuary, and third, Kujaveli Sanctuary, right? So select the correct answer from the given below options, and you need to answer this question in the comment section, and correct answer I will be providing you in tomorrow's class. And the first article, which is very important article that we are going to discuss today, is investing in persons with the disabilities, right? So these persons are also known as persons with the disabilities, or PWDs, right? So persons with the disabilities. Now in fact, the person with disabilities, or PWDs, are identified as one of the most vulnerable section of the overall population. So therefore, because we need to ensure education for them, and healthcare is also a very important thing that helps them become independent, financially independent, and they could also achieve the income security, social security, social safety nets. So most important things are education and healthcare, and family support is also another important factor that has to be looked into. And apart from that, there should not be any stereotypes and even discrimination or stigma that should be attached, and that is also another very important aspect. And equality or egalitarian society has to be created, and more sensitization of the people, people towards the persons with the special needs is also very important aspect when we are talking about the persons with disabilities. And even better employment opportunities for them, more and better employment opportunities, better pay for them. So all these things have to be looked into. So when we are able to ensure all these things are properly implemented for the persons with the disabilities, so they could live a better life, and they could also enjoy better standard of living. Ultimately, when governments considering the option of investing in persons with the disabilities, investing in persons with disabilities essentially means that government has been making investments in all these areas. So that will over a period of time will actually help in creation of an egalitarian society, or equal society, which actually builds on equity principles, right? So this is the brief context, and let's get into this article. So if you get into this article, so in fact, persons with the disabilities as of now have been facing a number of problems, or numerous problems, such as they have been facing the social stigma because of their disabilities, and even they are also facing the vulnerability and threat of marginalization in almost all sections, and even they have been facing discrimination in the arenas of education, employment, and even most importantly, they are struggling a lot in terms of getting a dignified life or enjoying a dignified life. And in fact, when we talk about the persons with the disabilities and the opportunities in employment, and even opportunities in terms of education, so educational institutions in India as of now, they lack necessary infrastructure, and this infrastructure is very important for them to further increase their opportunities and lead a dignified life in later ages of their life. However, as of now, educational institutions have been lacking the necessary infrastructure and also the support mechanisms. And even when we talk about the persons with the disabilities, since they have the special needs, they need specific infrastructure for them, right? So the government in fact launched Accessible India campaign, right? So what is the objective of this Accessible India campaign? Under this Accessible India campaign, the government would actually provide them the infrastructure which is suitable for the persons with the disabilities, right? So even workplaces also lack the robust diversity policies that would give a proper representation to the persons with the disabilities. So these are number of problems that the persons with disabilities have been facing. So however, we need to look into the status of persons with disabilities in education and jobs in the year 2023. So this was actually a report that was published by Nifty 50 constituent companies, and this particular report has revealed some shocking facts about the persons with the disabilities, right? So according to this Nifty 50 constituent companies report, it has revealed that only 5 out of 50 companies have more than 1% of the persons with the disabilities on their rolls. So of course, it essentially pointing out towards the fact that the persons with the disabilities are not adequately represented at different roles in various private companies, with 4 of them being the public sector companies, right? And apart from that, there's also data from a National Center for the Promotion of Employment of Disabled Person, right? So this is also another institute, and which has also released some data with respect to the employment of disabled persons in number of different sectors, and it has revealed that less than 1% of the India's total educational institutions are disabled friendly. And in fact, it is a cause of concern, because it is very important that we need to provide persons with disabilities better education and employment opportunities, and if possible we need to also adequately skill them. But on the other hand, less than 1% of total India's educational institutions lacking the disabled friendly infrastructure, and in fact less than 40% of the school buildings have ramps, and approximately 17% of these schools have accessible restrooms for these disabled students. So therefore certainly it is a cause of concern, and the government should actually look into, and the government should also come up with certain guidelines and regulations for all these educational institutions to essentially make education more and more accessible for the persons with the physical disabilities. And in fact, there's also lack of infrastructure, and lack of infrastructure essentially combined with lack of inclusive policies, and this has been further increasing the struggle of the persons with the disabilities, right? So all these factors, the lack of infrastructure along with the lack of inclusive policies, they actually hinder the full participation of the persons with the disabilities in the society for their full development, for full utilization of their existing capabilities or capacities. So therefore in this backdrop, or in this context, it is very, very important that both public and private institutions should adequately invest in the uplift of the persons with the disabilities, and that is very important. And don't forget, the government has already launched a number of programs for the persons with the disabilities, and most important among them is Accessible India campaign. So under Accessible India campaign, the government would construct infrastructure, and that infrastructure would be disabled friendly. And apart from Accessible India campaign, the government has also launched a unique disability identification project, and even scholarship for the persons or the students with the disabilities, and even Deen Dayal Disabled Rehabilitation Scheme was also launched by the government. And similar way, there are number of other programs also that the government has launched for the welfare and promotion of persons with the disabilities. And whenever you are writing an answer about the persons with the disabilities, because it is very important in your general studies paper 2, because in the social justice part you may get this question, right? So there are certain vulnerable sections, and persons with the disabilities are also a vulnerable section, and you may get a question on this. And coming back to this discussion, and specifically we need to talk about the Indian education system and how Indian education system is actually a disabled friendly in nature. The Indian education system has to be more and more inclusive, so it should have an inclusive framework to promote a better participation of persons with the disabilities, or inclusive education is very, very important. And inclusive education and holistic education also takes into account the needs of the persons with the disabilities. However, so from the previous data that we have collected, so we get to know that less than 1% of India's educational institutions have a disabled friendly infrastructure. But on the other hand, so we need to look into the examples from other countries. There was a university called Harvard University in the US, and in fact it has a local disability coordinators, or it has a proper framework, and this framework actually has a local disability coordinators, and these coordinators are specialized in helping the persons with the disabilities to find suitable accommodation in the city. And we should also have such mechanisms in place, so that those mechanisms specialize in certain areas with respect to helping persons with the disabilities, and that would actually make a lot of change. And in fact, few Indian universities also provide such impressive models, and one best example in the last year, Shiv Nada University has enumerated even a disabled support policy. And in fact, the Shiv Nada University has set a shining example in front of all Indian educational institutions, because it has started this disability support policy in the year 2023, and this disability support policy will essentially include providing personalized support to students on case by case basis. And in fact, these measures, however, in India these measures are not institutionalized, and that is a key cause of concern. So whenever measures are being put in place by any university, or even there are lot of educational institutions, those lot of educational institutions not even having a proper measures that actually put in place for the benefit of the persons with their disabilities. So therefore there is a need to institutionalize these measures, and in fact these measures are also not uniform, and since they are not uniform, they actually leave a vast number of students from diverse backgrounds out of the walls of the university. And it should be a cause of concern, because it will not make education more and more inclusive, and that is a cause of concern. And it will also don't make education more and more holistic, and it will make persons with the disabilities outside the educational institutions or outside the classrooms, and that will make them that will exclude them from the full benefits that the government has been actually providing them. So we need to adequately educate them. So in order to educate them, we need to ensure a proper infrastructure in all these educational institutions, and then we need to appropriately skill them, and after skilling them we should also find employment opportunities and even the entrepreneurial opportunities for the people, so that it will help them substantially or significantly. Despite UGC's draft accessibility and inclusivity guidelines, University Grant Commission guidelines in this regard for the higher educational institutions, the presence of persons with disabilities is not very encouraging in all these educational institutions. So hence, there is a need that these educational institutions should take this issue very, very seriously, and they should develop the infrastructure, and they should also properly implement, put in place the standards, and that will benefit the persons with the disabilities, and they will not face the discrimination that they have been currently facing. And in fact, the persons with the disabilities are also striving for the dignity, or for the value of dignity, because disabled people as of now have been presented as a socially flawed group of people, and socially flawed able-bodied people, and in fact they're not as a disabled people with their own identities. And in fact, so this is the problem, and this is also a kind of a social stereotyping and a kind of stigma that is being attached to the persons with the disabilities, and this must change, so that the persons with the disabilities will enjoy a dignified life. And the identity of persons with the disabilities is being eroded in several ways, and persons with the disabilities are considered by many as a pitiful or even the helpless people. And in fact, disability, in addition to belonging to a lower caste or to a particular gender, it also creates a double or triple burden on them, because it's not just the disability that they have been suffering, but imagine that a person who is disabled but who belong to the lower caste, and person who is a disabled who belong to the lower caste, and who is poor, and who is old age woman. Now in this case, the struggle and the burden would be double and tripled, and it would be very difficult for them to cope up with all these difficulty, all these struggle. So therefore there should be a proper and institutionalized mechanism, and that particular mechanism should address the needs of the persons with the disabilities, and it will lead to the empowerment of the persons with the disabilities, and that is very important. However, the government has launched several initiatives for empowerment of the persons with the disabilities. So these are the number of schemes. See, whenever you write any mains answer, you must mention such schemes which are already put in place, which are already launched by the government, because they are very impactful and they actually help you make this answer more and more attractive, and they can also get you good marks for your answer, right? So these are number of programs such as unique disability identification portal was created by the union government. Accessible India campaign was also launched to provide better infrastructure, and Deen Dayal disabled rehabilitation scheme was also launched, and even assistance to disabled persons for purchase fitting of aids and appliances was also launched, and national fellowship for students with disabilities, and even unique ID for persons with the disability card. So all these things are being started or being launched after for the benefit of the persons with the disabilities. And in fact, the central government has also launched Persons with Disabilities Act 2016, and as per this Persons with the Disabilities Act 2016, so reservations for the higher education for them has been given. 5% of the reservation was given in the higher education, and government jobs 4% of the reservation was given for the persons with the disabilities. And even poverty alleviation schemes, 5% of the total quantum of the funds as part of the poverty alleviation scheme has been allocated for the persons with the disabilities. And several state governments have also been providing adequate pensions for the persons with the disabilities. And in fact, it has made right to free and compulsory education from 6 years to 18 years under the Right to Education Act, and it would also ensure accessibility in public buildings under Accessible India campaign. This includes both government buildings and the private buildings as within a prescribed time frame. And apart from that, the types of disabilities covered under this particular act. So earlier total number of disabilities are 7, but now this number of disabilities has been increased to 21, covering a different and wide variety of disabilities. And special courts will also be designated in each district, and these special courts will actually handle cases concerning violation of rights of persons with the disabilities, and even for the penalties for offences committed against the persons with the disabilities, and also for the violation of provisions of new law. So all these things are being introduced as part of the Persons with Disabilities Amendment Act of 2016, right? So next important article on death penalty of rape. So in recent times, the crime against women has been seeing an increasing trend, and one such example is being the rape and murder of a junior resident doctor in RG Kar Medical College Hospital in Kolkata. And so even after the Delhi paramedic gang rape, brutal gang rape, and the murder of the woman, so we could see there has been an increasing number of such incidents have been taking place. Inhuman activities have been taking place, but there is a changed stance on the part of the government to prescribe more stringent punishment, and this stringent punishment could be having a deterrent effect, right? So when it is having a deterrent effect, so that could actually help in preventing the crimes against women. But there was a committee immediately after this Delhi gang rape case was came into the limelight. So the Justice Verma committee was appointed by the union government to suggest recommendations on the a reform of the criminal justice system, specifically with respect to crimes against women and rape. Now we'll understand the context, and we'll also understand this and what this Justice Verma committee has actually recommended, and what are the views of the central government. We'll try to understand this in a very detailed manner. And the context is that after this brutal rape and murder of a junior resident doctor on duty at Kolkata's R.G. Kar Medical Hospital and Medical College and Hospitals on August 9. So in fact, there has been a clamor of voices, and these clamor of voices have been seeking the death penalty for the accused, right? So this is the actual context, and whether Justice Verma committee has actually recommended death penalty for committing rape and murder of a woman. Right, what is the view of the central government in this regard? Whether central government has already brought any legislations which have prescribed this particular thing, right? So union cabinet's decision. So what is union cabinet's decision on this matter? So in fact, union cabinet did not take the recommendation on death penalty because Justice Verma committee has not recommended the death penalty even in the rarest of the rare cases, right? So one thing that you need to understand, that this Justice Verma committee was appointed in the year 2012, so when this Delhi gang rape took place, right, on a paramedic. So this Justice Verma committee was appointed, and the task of the Justice Verma committee is the reform of criminal justice system. Reform of criminal justice system. So however, Justice Verma committee has never recommended death penalty even in rarest of the rare cases, because in the opinion of Justice Verma committee, death penalty would not be a strong deterrent to prevent such inhuman crimes against women. So this was the context, but the union cabinet did not actually take the recommendation on the death penalty of Justice Verma committee. So when the union government actually cleared an ordinance on sexual assault, so in the year 2013, union government has actually passed an ordinance, and in this ordinance the union cabinet did not take into consideration Justice Verma committee's views on a death penalty, and in fact the same ordinance that was cleared by the union cabinet in the year 2013 was signed as a criminal amendments into the law. And in fact, the Justice Verma committee was appointed to amend criminal laws, and that was set up after the gang rape of a paramedic student in Delhi on 16th November 2012. And in fact, the death as a maximum punishment for every participant in a gang rape when a victim is less than 12 years old under section 376 DB, and a lifelong imprisonment if the victim is less than 16 years of age under section 376 DA. So these are the punishments that are being already prescribed in the code of criminal procedure. And don't forget that this new Bharatiya Nyaya Sanhita was also recently brought into effect, and this Bharatiya Nyaya Sanhita has been replacing the existing Indian Penal Code, a Code of Criminal Procedure, and even Indian Evidence Act. So under this new Bharatiya Nyaya Sanhita, so punishment for a gang rape of a woman under the age of 18 years is death penalty, right? So this is what the government stand on the crime such as gang rape on a woman who is under the 18 years of age. And in fact, the Justice Verma Committee has made several recommendations when it was appointed after the brutal gang rape of a paramedic in Delhi. And in fact, Justice Verma Committee has recommended enhances sentences for rape and even increasing it from 7 years to 10 years, and even they are more serious in nature, 20 years and even life also. But Justice Verma Committee was not in favor of recommending a death penalty for the crimes such as rape and murder of the victim. So therefore, even during the even in the case of rarest of the rare cases, Justice Verma Committee did not recommended the death penalty. Rather, it has increased the punishment. It has increased or enhanced the sentences for rape, and it has increased the sentences from 7 years to 10 years and even 20 years and even life also. For example, anyone who causes the persons to be in a persistent vegetative state, right? So Aruna Shanbag, so she was in a persistent state for more than 45 years. So when that the rape attempt took place on Aruna Shanbag in Bombay. So right, so therefore whenever any person causes other person or the victim to be in a persistent vegetative state, and he or she shall be punished with a rigorous imprisonment for a term which shall not be less than 20 years, but maybe for the life also. And that was another recommendation of the Justice Verma Committee. So however, according to the Working Group on Human Rights, the murder rate has declined sharply, or the murder rate that in recent times the murder rate has decreased consistently in India over the last 20 years, despite the slowdown in the execution of death sentences since the year 1980. And on the other hand, Justice Verma Committee has also adopted a certain stance on marital rape, with respect to marital rape of Justice Verma Committee. So the exception to a marital rape, Justice Verma Committee specifically said that it was not inclined to recommend the death penalty for rape even for the rarest of the rare cases, and that is the opinion or the view of Justice Verma Committee. It did not favor the death penalty or execution of a convicted individual, even he committed rarest of the rare offenses, pointing out that a marital or other relationship between the perpetrator or victim is not a valid defense against the crimes of rape or even the sexual violation. So that was the view of Justice Verma Committee. But on the other hand, the Bharatiya Nyaya Sanhita, so exception 2 of section 63 states that sexual intercourse or acts by a man with his wife, the wife not being under age of 18 years is not considered as rape, right? So this will not be considered as part of a rape. So in case of a sexual intercourse of a man with his wife who is not under the 18 years of age, and that is the view of on marital rape in the Bharatiya Nyaya Sanhita. But whatever it may be, but the protection of gender rights, protection of the rights of the woman is very, very important, because the inhumane nature of crime has been taking place against women, and women are feeling unsafe, and women are also vulnerable in this society. So therefore it is very important that the government and the civil society and the people must identify the rights of the people, and they should identify the gender rights specifically with respect to women, and there is a need to protect and respect those gender rights. And it is necessary that the law as well as the public policy, and they must be capable of engaging substantially with the women's rights. So they need to engage substantially with women's rights, opportunities, acquisition of skills, and even ability to generate a self-confidence, and insist a total equality in relationships both within the society and even the entire state also, right? So that is the view of the central government and Justice Verma Committee. But ultimately it is very important that these gender rights must be identified, recognized and respected by everyone. And next important article is with respect to National Quantum Mission, and we will understand the context of this National Quantum Mission in a very detailed manner. So recently India's first quantum computer set for the launch under the National Quantum Mission. So we all knew that the central government has launched a national quantum mission. Under this national quantum mission, so India's national quantum capabilities would be enhanced, would be strengthened manyfold, because countries like China, Russia, European Union countries and USA have made a rapid strides in the area of quantum technology. So therefore India still lags behind compared to all those countries, and we need to, because quantum technologies actually hold a lot of importance in number of areas, defense, space, and in number of areas quantum technology actually holds a lot of importance. And because of that reason, India has actually eyed on further strengthening its capability in terms of the quantum mission or the quantum technologies. Now what is the objective? So the objective is that after a delay of nearly 4 years in this national quantum mission to develop quantum computer for India, the national quantum mission is set to advance India's quantum technologies across 4 different key verticals or 4 different key areas. They are quantum computing, communication measurement, and even sensing. So these are 3 or 4 different areas, and we'll briefly talk about this national quantum mission. And this national quantum mission over the next 8 years, from 2023 to 2031. So this national quantum mission essentially aimed at, or its objective is to pioneer the development of intermediate scale quantum computers, right? So these intermediate scale quantum computers will have the capacity, or will have a 52,000 qubits of physical qubits, and they also use cutting edge platforms like superconducting and even the photonic technologies. So all these things would be used in the national supercomputing mission. And in fact, this national supercomputing mission will also seeks to establish a satellite based secure quantum communications spanning a range of 2000 kilometers within India and even extending to the other countries from India. So therefore this is another benefit and the advantage of national quantum mission. And in fact, when we talk about the applications of these quantum computers that the national quantum mission aimed to develop, so the applications include, so these quantum computers can be used to develop highly sensitive magnetometers in atomic systems, precision atomic clocks for timing, and even communications and navigation. So all these things could be effectively used in the development of quantum computers as part of the national quantum mission. And in fact, so this national quantum mission will provide crucial support for the design and synthesis of quantum materials, and these quantum materials including superconductors, novel semiconductor structures, topological materials to fabricate the advanced quantum devices. However, to catalyze research and development, 4 T-hubs will be instituted in premier academic and even national research and development institutes. However, the overall focus of these T-hubs is to ignite a new knowledge through fundamental and applied research, as well as driving R&D activities forward. Right, so these are all the objectives of the national quantum mission. And when we talk about the specific applications of the quantum computers and this quantum mission, so the applications of this mission will actually find utility across diverse sectors such as healthcare, diagnostics, defense, energy, and data security. So in all these areas they will actually find applications. So quantum computers at work. So how quantum computers will essentially work in this context? Now the quantum computing usually uses the qubit as a basic unit of information rather than the conventional bit. And apart from that, the main characteristics of this alternative system is that it actually permits the coherent superposition of ones and zeros, the digits of the binary system around which all computing or all computers would actually involve, right? So this is how the quantum computers would actually work, and these are the applications of the quantum computers. And in fact, so you could also see quantum computing, how quantum technologies would actually work here. And next, classical languages, another very important article from the prelims perspective. This article is very, very important because there are previous instances that how many classical languages that we actually have, and how classical languages would get the recognition from the union government. So everything has to be understood in a very detailed manner, right? So the context is that recently the Center for the Promotion of Classical Telugu, Odia, Kannada, Malayalam Malayalam actually demand autonomy for their proper independent functioning, and because of that reason it is in news. And what is this classical language criteria, and that we need to look into this classical language criteria also. So in fact, the criteria is that a language or any language should actually have a long history of at least 1500 to 2000 years documented in their early texts. So right, so this is the first criteria to be identified as a classical language. And in fact in India we have around 6 classical languages: Telugu, Tamil, Malayalam, Kannada, Sanskrit, Odia. So these are the 6 languages which are now enjoying the classical language status, right? So I would just mention all these languages, right? So almost all southern languages: Telugu, Tamil, Kannada, Malayalam, Sanskrit, Odia. Right, so these are the 6 languages which have got the classical language status because they have fulfilled the criteria to be recognized as classical languages. And apart from that, it will also possess, or it should possess, a body of ancient literature that is highly regarded as cultural heritage by generations of speakers. And the literary tradition of the language should be original and even not borrowed from any other speech community. So this is also another criteria. And classical language and its literature should be distinct from any other language or any other modern form, and it actually potentially show a discontinuity between classical language and its later forms or even its offshoots. However, the classical languages, how these classical languages are being recognized. So India currently recognized 6 classical languages, as I have already mentioned. So in fact, Tamil was declared as a classical language in the year 2004, and in fact it was the first language to be recognized as a classical language or to be accorded classical language status, followed by Sanskrit, and it accorded the classical language status in the year 2005. And Telugu was also given the classical language status in the year 2008, followed by Kannada, same in the year 2008. Malayalam was given 2013, and Odia was the latest to be recognized or last to be recognized as a classical language. And in fact there are also demands from several other states, such as Maharashtra state government has been asking, and West Bengal, Assami state government, all have been requesting that their languages must be accorded the classical language status. And once any language is accorded as a classical language status or given classical language status, what are the benefits it usually enjoys, right? So once it is designated as a classical language, the Ministry of Education will actually provide various benefits to promote this, including 2 major international awards annually for scholars of eminence in the language, and establishment of a center of excellence for studies in the classical language, right? So these are different benefits which are being accorded to any language which is being recognized as a classical language, right? So in fact that's all in this lecture, and thank you so much. And if you like our work, please subscribe our YouTube channel and also hit the like button, and thank you so much.